information about that botched prison break in North Carolina. We now know the gruesome details of the deaths of the 4 people killed in the Pasquotank attacks. They come from the medical examiner's autopsy and investigation reports.
13 News Now obtained those documents. Investigative reporter Laura Geller joins us with the new developments.
Well, guys, we must start with a warning. The information in these reports is graphic. Medical examiners are blunt, using cold, scientific language to describe the vicious attacks.
The new reports give us a clearer picture of the brutality inmates were able to inflict while still behind bars. For Justin Smith's mom, the pain caused by the savage attacks hasn't eased.
It shouldn't have never happened.
Now we know Justin, the only officer guarding the sewing plant where the violence erupted, was stabbed more than 60 times. According to his autopsy, he had more than 30 lacerations to his face and scalp, and his brainstem was nearly severed.
You can't have one person with 30-something deadly inmates. You can't have where they are allowed to have weapons.
Veronica Darden's autopsy also details lacerations to her face and scalp, along with injuries to her jugular vein and right lung. The report shows her body was found near the freight elevator. It was face down and covered by cardboard boxes. When we sat down with Darden's daughter, she told us each new detail uncovered makes her more concerned about her mom's co-workers left behind at Pasquotank.
Do you think it's safe for them to go to work every day?
No. I thought that before my mom got killed, but I never would think that it would be like that.
Jeffrey Howe's injuries take up 2.5 pages of his autopsy report. Medical examiners write he had skull fractures and traumatic eye injuries. Wendy Shannon's cause of death is listed as complications of blunt force head injuries.
There was some real anger and hatred and viciousness that took place in this prison on that day.
Just about an hour ago, the director of North Carolina prisons sent us a statement for our story. He said the department and prisons management continue to focus on reforms that make our facilities safer for our employees, the public, and the inmates. The department will continue implementing actions to help us do all we can to prevent incidents like Pasquotank from ever happening again. Laura Geller, 13 News Now.